Hi everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all doing very well. I hope you're all keeping safe, and I hope you're all painting lots of paintings, wonderful paintings. This week is Shark Week, am I correct? If I'm not, please do tell me. But I got a request from Robin, who is a huge fan of Shark Week, and Robin asked me could I paint something for Shark Week, for all of you shark and fish enthusiasts out there. So yeah, I think I'll do that this week, something completely different, switch it up a little bit. Right, I have a canvas behind me here. It's 16 by 20 and I have the sketch already done. It's just a quick sketch of a shark underwater, okay, coming towards you with the mouth open, sort of at a slight angle, something like that. I'm going to try it this week just for a bit of fun, just to kind of loosen up with the brush, that kind of thing, do you know what I mean? So yes, now I hung the water drop that I painted, I hung it up in my hallway over the stairs. Have a look, see what you think. Isn't that wonderful? I think it's just enough for the wall. It's not too brash. I think it goes well, and it's a real eye catcher. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but the canvas was slightly off of square. That was because it was my own fault, really, because I took out the centre brace on the canvas frame, and behind the canvas there was a timber strut going across behind the canvas to give it strength, to give the frame strength. But when I found first when I started painting that my brush strokes were showing on the line going right across the canvas because of that timber behind it. I think it's just a type of canvas frame that it should have been kind of slightly back from the canvas, but it was right against the canvas, so when you were brushing on paint you could kind of see this line going across the picture, and it was really annoying. So what I done was I just cut it out with a little saw from behind. I cut it in the middle, I kind of snapped it outwards in half, and I took out that middle bar then, okay? So I think that's why then the canvas kind of sort of went slightly off square, very slightly. But if it's framed, it's fine. You don't have to worry about doing things like that if you're going to put it in a frame anyway. But I will frame it. I think it would look much nicer with a frame, have much more of an impact with a frame. So I'll frame it. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. I think you'll agree, it's lovely on the wall there. Really catches your eye when you're walking down the stairs. So enough of me blabbering on. Let's crack on and get this wonderful tutorial done of a shark underwater. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. Right, here we go. Now, can you see that sketch? I hope you can. It's a very light sketch I done of the shark. There is the photograph. Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely fantastic. A big wide open mouth coming towards us. That's going to make a nice tutorial, I think. Getting this nice soft effect in the water, and the back of the shark almost kind of fades into the distance a little bit. So creating that look now is going to be quite tricky, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Alright? Now the drawing is not exactly the same, but I don't want it to look exactly the same either. Mine is slightly longer, I would think, but we can change that as we go. Alright? Now, my colours. I have a very strange kind of a palette today. I've added on one or two colours which I want to try. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but I want to try them, okay? Because we have a lot of very bright turquoise colours in this painting. So I'll tell you what I have here first, alright? Let me just get some more titanium white. That's the most important one really, I suppose, titanium white. I have Naples yellow, I have cadmium yellow pale, I have some cobalt blue, some magenta, I have some Perusian blue. Now Perusian blue is very similar to phaylo blue, okay? Perusian blue is a warmer version of phaylo, so it's a kind of a warm, it's kind of similar to French ultramarine, but it's a really dark, warm blue, alright? So I have some of that. Perusian blue. I have some burnt umber, a little black. Now over here, I'm not sure if I need them or not, but I put them in the corner. A little crimson alizarin, or alizarin crimson, whichever you prefer to call it. And I also have cerulean blue. Just a little cerulean blue. Because I had this in my palette for a while, in my box rather, for a long time, and I wasn't sure if I was ever going to use it. Let me find the tube for you here. I know it's there somewhere. I had it there just a moment ago. Where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. Cerulean blue. Okay? It's a very old tube now. I have this tube about 15 years. That's how little I use it. So yes, I'm going to try some of this. It's a very kind of a pasty, bright, turquoisey blue. Might come in handy. Let's try it. Brushes. I'm going to start with my large stubby brush. Alright. Now I have another one here. It's quite worn. I think this is too worn for this kind of a picture. I'm going to use this. It's just starting to thicken up a little bit. Okay. Now I have some turpentine here. Look, turpentine, a little drop of linseed oil in it. What I meant to do actually was, I'm going to give this just a very light coat of linseed oil. Now, I've been doing this, I've only started kind of doing this recently in the last couple of weeks, because I tried it one time and it worked really, really well. And what it does is it just gives the canvas that little bit of a base for the paints to kind of move around nicely on. Do you understand? And it really, really does work. And it's not going to interfere with your painting or your canvas in any way whatsoever, because the very same type of oil is used in oil paints as well. Okay, in different variant. So it's completely safe to use. Now let's just come down a little bit. It's just to help the paint kind of move around a little bit better on the canvas. So that's it, a little tiny bit of that. I can see it kind of starting to dry here and there. It's a very slightly oily surface. You can hardly even, I can hardly feel this now on my fingers, okay? It's just only very slightly. It does help. Excuse me. Right, dampen your brush. And I'm going to start with the darker side up here. I'm thinking Prussian blue. Now you see how rich that is? Look at that, tell you something. Lots of turpentine in this. A bit of white. Now isn't that a lovely blue? Look at that. And I'm torn between using cerulean blue and I'm using a little bit of cadmium yellow to make it green. I think I'll try a hint of cadmium yellow pale in this. And I may use a hint of naples yellow because that will brighten it slightly. I mean, it's looking at the photograph, it's just a blue, isn't it? But it's a greeny kind of a blue. And greeny blues are very tricky to get right, I will say. Let me try a little bit of cerulean, just for a bit of fun. Give that a good mix there now. Okay. And what I do then is, I have my reference photograph over here on my mobile phone, okay? It's just to the side. So what I do is I look at that, I look at my picture, and I look back very quickly. And your eye will be able to see if it's slightly different, if it's much, much different, or if it's kind of similar. This is similar, so I'll go with that. I'm happy enough with that colour. That linseed oil now is really helping to move this paint around lovely on the canvas, you see? Now let's take a bit more. Plenty of white now on this because the white will make it creamy and it will cover your canvas much better as well. Let's take some cerulean. Let's take, now I could use the cerulean actually just for over here. The cerulean with the white. Okay, over on this side. Let's add a little bit more of the Prussian. And the thing about the Prussian blue is, the Prussian blue is very similar to the phaylo blue in that they're very rich, strong colours. So they can be very overpowering. So look, a tiny amount goes a long way. So just bear that in mind when using these colours. It's similar to French ultramarine, I would say. They're very strong, rich colours, and they really overpower a painting if you're not careful. So that's what I'll say, okay? Use them very, very sparingly. That's probably today's top tip. Now let's take some more white, some more Perusian, a little hint of cadmium yellow, and I will keep putting hints of cadmium yellow in this painting as I go, because that will give the overall tone of the painting that greeny kind of underwatery type of a feeling. Now I'm just going along over the top of the fish there, just soften it all out. Now this may be a little bit thin still for me, okay? I might decide to add thicker paint on over that, depending on how it dries, because this could dry in, because it's a very thin mix, it could kind of dry in patchy. I don't know if you've ever noticed that on your canvases before, but sometimes it can dry little bits of patchiness here and there. So that's because the paint is so thin. And generally what I do then is, once I have this kind of thin layer, we'll say, on the canvas, I'll start working in then slightly thicker paint. So I'm going to go with some Perusian blue this time now and a little magenta. I'm going to try a little of that. And I can see a little hint of that colour up here. So now I'm putting on this slightly thicker mix. It's only slightly thicker now. And I'm going to soften that over, bearing in mind it's very bright on the right hand side, so don't go too far. And I'm going to just bring that over. Excuse me. I have a bumblebee stuck in my throat for the past couple of weeks, months even, and it's starting to worry me, I'll be honest. It's like this constant tickle at the back of my throat which I cannot get rid of. I've tried everything and it just will not go. I think a trip to the GP may be in order, you know, just to rule out anything serious. It's just something that's there constantly and it will not go away no matter what you do, no matter how much honey you drink and all the rest of it. It just will not go away. It's really, really annoying, and it's beginning to spoil my tutorials, it's beginning to spoil my day. It's really, really annoying me, and it's frustrating. And I know it's frustrating for viewers as well. It's kind of embarrassing a little bit, so I'm going to get it checked. It's something that's in the back of my mind for weeks. I'm just too stubborn, I suppose, to go and get it looked at. That's what my wife would say. I'm just too stubborn. Anyway, look, continuing on. I'm just lightening this now as it comes down. It's getting more kind of into the blue, isn't it? Dare I say, a kind of a cobalt blue. Let's take a little drop of turpentine, some cobalt blue, a little white, and let's try that. Now I'm going over the tail, okay? The little fins on the tail. You can put those back in later, don't worry too much about those. Just keep the general shape of the shark there, so you know where to paint later on. Pop a bit of that cobalt through there. So I could now maybe start coming down on this side with a very bright colour. I'm going to give my brush a quick dab and a good clean. Okay, there we go. Nice and clean. So I'll dampen the brush very, very slightly. I'm going to take lots of white, lots of Naples yellow, and I'm going to take a hint of cerulean blue. That should give me a nice bright colour. I'm kind of trying it now as I go. It's it's kind of a hit and miss type of a painting. You just have to kind of try something and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then go to plan B, whatever plan B will be. Now, a bit more of that, and I'm going to kind of flick it through here and there, look, creating some movement up there. And we can do the same coming down the side here, bring that right down. I will soften all of this now, don't worry, okay? It will be nice and soft. and a bit up there, flick a little bit of white through. Just sort of create a movement up there on the water surface, if you understand. All I'm doing is just flicking my brush. Look, it's not even a sharp edged brush. It's just a little bit on the sharp side. All I'm doing is just flicking it here and there, left to right. Look. Leave it create some texture and some direction, let's say. That's the word I'm looking for. It's creating some direction on the water. See, and it's picking up each colour as it goes along, mixing them together and creating this lovely surface we have overhead. Now, let me have a look now and see how we're doing. I just want to gauge this. This may be a two-part tutorial now, I'm not sure. I'll see how it goes. I'm going to take some white and a little hint of Naples yellow, and I just want to add a little bit of light up here, okay? Very kind of a bright light coming down from above. I may even add a hint of cerulean with white. The cerulean is a wonderful colour actually. It's very difficult to describe. It's like a very bright bluey, turquoisey kind of a blue. It's a fantastic colour actually. I may start using it more often, perhaps even in landscapes. I bet you could get some really wonderful skies with kind of a cerulean blue colour. Now, so what I'm going to do this stage is I'm going to dampen my brush because it's quite dry. So take a tiny drop of turpentine with the corner of your brush. Let's go into some cerulean, some white and a hint of Naples yellow. The Naples yellow then with the cerulean blue will give you this lovely turquoisey colour, which we have. You see that? Isn't that wonderful? And you can immediately see the difference now down here because the canvas is completely dry, where I've no linseed oil, and you can see the paint is it's very dry the way it's going on. You tend to kind of have to scrape it on, you see? It's not going very far at all. So what I'm going to do, just to help me along, I'm just going to take my little bit of tissue and my linseed oil. It's great stuff, isn't it? Take a tiny amount of that. Just rub that along here. Okay? You can see I'm only just putting on a little hint of it, that's all. There. Done. Let's get our paint. Now let's try it again and see the difference. Okay? Cerulean blue, Naples yellow, and some white. Again, a tiny amount of turpentine in this, tiny amount, just to soften the paint out a little. Now look at that. That's much better. You see, it just helps that little bit. It gives you that little bit of extra movement on the canvas. It really does help. More cerulean blue, some white. Now, as it comes down, there's less movement in the water because this is under the water, obviously. So it's very soft. There's very little movement on the bottom half of the painting. There is a couple of sun rays coming down. I might try and get those, try and capture those. I think that'll be lovely. So do bear with me while I just get this filled in. And again, I'm working in thin mixes, alright? All my mixes are quite thin, meaning I've lots of turpentine in them, okay? And I can then build on that and put on thicker paint over that. This is going to be a fun one. This is going to be, I can tell this is going to finish up nicely, I hope. But I have a feeling this is going to be one of those really nice tutorials where everything just works. Now, a touch of cobalt perhaps, because as it comes across, it's getting slightly richer. Drop a turpentine, some more cerulean blue with that. The cerulean just gives it that hint of kind of ocean colour, which I like. So as they say, if it works, just go with it. Now let's soften this all out just a little bit here. And I may put slightly thicker paint on this again. We'll see. Now, okay, I'm going to go with cerulean blue and some thinners, a little cobalt blue. Okay, not much white in this now at all, and this is getting nice and dark on this side. Okay, soften it up there just very slightly as it comes up. And I want to get a touch of magenta, touch of cobalt, maybe a touch of Perusian into that, some cerulean. I want to just give it a hint of warmth just on one side. That's a bit much now, okay? I agree, that's a bit much. I just want to give it that hint of kind of a dark, warm, dark blue, okay? Just going to soften that in there now, alright? And soften it up very gently. Okay, give the brush a good dry. Take some cerulean blue and some white. So now I'm kind of putting on slightly thicker layers. Just slightly, okay? I just want to get the canvas covered nicely. I don't want the canvas to be drying patchy, so I'm putting on a nice thick layer of paint. Now more cerulean blue, it's a wonderful colour. And I remember using this years and years back when I first started painting. It was one of the first colours of blue that I used. I don't know why I stopped actually. You know, it just changes as you go. You kind of pick up different tubes of paint, you try different colours, and you become accustomed to those colours, don't you? That's what happens, isn't it? But that's good. It's good to try different things like that. A little bit of white, some Naples yellow. Let's go up here and soften that in. Now I'm going to get it nice and bright on this side here, okay? Right around the shark's mouth. And that will give us a lovely contrast. So I'm just going to take my blender brush, just for one moment, excuse me, and make sure it's nice and clean now. I'm going to soften all this paint together here, soften it all out. Left to right, left to right. And we'll go up then and we can start softening some of this. This is a painting I really want to get right and get nice, so I'm taking my time. If I have to cut it and do a part two, I will. But I'm really kind of enjoying this type of a colour. It's a beautiful colour. Now, I want to get another darker layer up here. It's very dark, isn't it? Let's take some Perusian blue, some cadmium yellow, tiny bit, that'll make it nice and green, touch of thinners, and then I'm going to take some cerulean blue as well. Now, one thing to notice about cerulean blue, okay, is that it's a very thick, chalky, pasty colour. What I mean is it's very opaque, okay, compared to, we say, burnt umber or black, which are very transparent, kind of rich, vibrant colours. The cerulean blue is a very, it's almost like a pastel kind of a feeling. It's soft, it's very pasty, it's very chalky, and that's one thing to bear in mind. So it's not a very rich, vibrant colour, okay? Just think about that if you're thinking about using cerulean blue. It's not something which will overpower a painting a huge amount. So I'm taking plenty of it. I'll take a hint of Prussian blue as well. And I just want to get that nice dark. There's a very nice rich dark colour up in the top here, isn't there? I may have to go now a little bit darker with this, because it is really, really, really dark. Let me just push that brush right across there now, get loads of that colour off of the brush. And I may take some Prussian blue, some cobalt, and a hint of cadmium yellow. That will give you another greeny blue, albeit a slightly darker. Now, loads of Prussian here, okay? Loads of Prussian, a hint of cerulean, and a hint of cadmium yellow, cadmium yellow pale. And that's a nice rich dark colour now, look. Now, we're getting some nice layers, aren't we? I think it's coming on a bit better. I'm going to try a hint of black in this, and a hint of crimson. And that will give us a really dark corner up here. But because there's crimson in it, it will help keep it warm. If you put too much black in this, it's going to just end up going like a grey blue. So that little hint of crimson will mix with the blue and give you a nice warm, okay, nice warm colour. Now let's come across here and create a couple of little ripples just here and there. I'm just using the very tip of the brush and I'm kind of just flicking it across, okay? So let's have a look now and see how we're going. Now I don't want to spend too much time on the background on this, okay? I don't want to go absolutely crazy putting colours on. So I'm going to leave it at that now. I'm going to give my brush a very good clean. Just dip it into your turpentine and let the tissue soak off all that colour, look, and go right into your soft bristles. Take all that colour out. Okay? Because what I want to do next is put in that very bright colour around by the shark's mouth, okay? I just want to get that lovely bright colour in. Now, that's okay, that'll do enough. I'm going to use some Naples yellow. I'm nearly out of Naples yellow. Lots of white. So I need more Naples yellow. I'll just grab some of that. And then, once I'm finished this little bright spot here, I think I'll put in some suggestions of fish underneath and off in the distance. I think that would make a big difference. Now look, I'm just putting in a bit more of that just around there. Again, I may have a little bit of dirty colour on my brush, so give it another quick clean. I'll take some white, some cerulean blue, just a tiny amount of blue, okay? Lots of white, nice and thick. Let's put that around here. Let's get more white, a little hint of Naples. That's more the colour I want, so I'll take more white, more Naples. Now I'm putting lots of thick paint on this, okay? Look, lots of thick paint so that it kind of sticks better and there's more coverage. And look, go around the shark, get that nice and bright. Okay, now I want to create some kind of form of sun rays coming down. I'm just going to take some Naples yellow and lots of white, okay? Now I've used a huge amount of white in this, lots and lots and lots of white, and I'm basically just going to go like that, okay? Again, more Naples yellow, perhaps a hint of cerulean actually, and some white, and I'm going to go like this, sort of coming off at a slight angle, okay? Alright, yeah, that's not bad. Let's put one or two more across here. It's just a very light suggestion of light coming down from above. Now let's take the very soft blender brush and let's soften this down, okay? I don't want solid brush strokes on this, I want this very, 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 very soft. Really softened into the background, look. There. How's that? You can begin to see some light coming down already. Now, I've spent enough time on that. I'm just actually going to just soften some of that sideways, soften some of this out up here, because we went over this with darker colour, remember? So I'm going to just soften this now back in to the water. Okay, next I'm going to take a small brush and I'm going to put in a suggestion of some little fish here and there off in the distance. Just going to use a dark colour, okay? Any dark kind of a bluey colour that you have will do fine. And let's just put a little hint. Look, just little suggestions with the brush. Okay, just like that. Let's try some with some cerulean blue on its own. See? Just a tiny, tiny shoal of fish off in the distance, and then they kind of fade off into the distance. Okay, and then I'm going to put just a very slightly dark little line. Some of them have a little dark line just on the tops. Now you really can't even tell these are fish, okay? It's just, as I said, a suggestion, that's all. And then a hint of light in some of those. It's very simple, but it works. You've one or two up here, I'm going to get those in. One or two nice little ones. I'll try and make these look somewhat like fish, if you know what I mean. Even though it's only just a suggestion. Okay, and then a hint of the light colour again, because there will be light hitting these from above. Okay, just a little tiny flick, okay, that's all. Now also we have a little shark off in the distance, don't we? Way off there. Excuse me. I think a slightly larger brush for this one, I think. I'll go with my little round medium brush, and off in the distance it's very, very pale. So I'm going to take a lighter colour of that green, or a darker colour of that green rather. And I'm going to put it in with that. I hope you can see this now. I hope this is showing up all right. It's not too pale. Excuse me, again. A little bit of a fin. Look, little suggestion of a fin. And then we'll move to the pointy brush. And let's just give it a little bit of detail. Just a hint. Take a little bit of that, a little bit of that. A bit of cobalt blue. In fact, it's a bit of a grey, isn't it? The kind of a grey colour. Okay, a little bit of dark underneath. Little tiny fin coming down. And we have another fin up on top. Now, is that starting to make sense? Little suggestion of the mouth and the nose. There. Now I think that will do fine because it's so far off, isn't it? And you could probably even soften very slightly into the background at the end, okay? Just soften his tail into the background to create that sort of misty, murky look that he's disappearing into the water. Okay, look, just very, very, very slightly. There. How's that? I don't know if you could see that or not now, but it's there. Okay. Actually, there's a bit of white on him. I forgot that. Little bit of white. It's there and there. Okay. Moving on to our main event. The main event. This is what we came here for, isn't it? This big shark. Okay. I'm going to use the equivalent of a medium stubby. Okay. I have a couple of different flats here, alright? You can see. I have that. I have a couple of stubbies here now, actually. Yeah, there's another little medium stubby. Okay, they're all basically the same, simple, flat synthetics. Alright. Now let's make a nice dark colour for this shark. Dampen the brush. I am going to go with. Let me look at that now. It's more of a kind of a dark bluey grey, isn't it? Let's try some black in this blue here. A little bit of white. There's a hint of, dare I say it, magenta in this. I can see that. Okay, well, let me just take a look at that. I think I'll maybe darken it slightly. A little more black. Perhaps a bit of cobalt. And let's paint in the outline of the shark. Okay. This is kind of a tricky. This shark now will be tricky in the sense that the colours change as it goes. So there's going to be a lot of mixing in this now, yes? Constantly trying to change colours as we're going up the shark. Understand what I mean? So this could take a little practice. Could take a while. Now a bit of Perusian, a bit of burnt umber. That gives you a grey, kind of a greeny colour. Okay, let's go down here like that. Right, I'm going to switch brushes and go up by the nose. No, in fact what we'll do, we'll go to the tail. Let's do the tail. Okay, the tail fin. Is it called the dorsal fin? I'm not sure now. I only remember all of this from Jaws. Okay, now let's go. Fantastic movie, by the way, one of the best. I could watch it over and over again. Let's put in the tail like that, and then I use just burnt umber, a little bit of black, okay? There was already a bit of blue on it. It goes up a little bit higher, doesn't it? Then take my small pointy brush, give that a bit of a point. A little bit of a turn. Would you like me to zoom in? I don't know if you want me to zoom in for this or not, because if I zoom in you can't see me mixing. That's the problem, you see. I know like there's a lot of tutorials out there and they just focus on the painting. But then you're wondering, you're thinking to yourself, what colour did he use for that, or what mix did he use for this? And I know that can be quite kind of frustrating. Now, take a bit of black, a bit of blue, and we have a little dark shadow just under there like that. Okay. And another little shadow here. Okay, that'll do for now. That's perfectly fine. And we'll move on then. We'll go up here by the nose and try and get all this kind of area done. This is where all the work is going to be. So I'm going to take a bit of white. I can see a lot of white up here. Go up here. So we have this goes up and goes over. Okay. Then we have a kind of a grey. Goes to sort of a bluey grey. Now it's kind of actually a kind of a dull grey. When you think about it, it's a very soft, pale kind of a grey. And what I mean by that is there's almost a hint of kind of a brown in the grey, if you know what I mean. It's that kind of a colour. So you can see now just where the dark part of the shark is up on top. So I'm putting that in. Okay, down like that. Softened colours together. The wonderful thing about oil is that you can soften all the colours together wonderfully like this. You see? Now get the brush quick clean, and I'm going to go for a very dark greeny colour for under that nose area. Okay? I can see a very dark, rich, almost like a viridian kind of a green under that nose. Comes over. I have little lines there as well, you see, drawn out, where I can kind of see where it stops. Now, what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can see or not, but it's a very kind of a stipple effect. So I'm going to just kind of, with my brush, the tip of my brush, sort of stipple this together so that they blend in, okay? Now only just a little. And then as well, comes off here like this, and then it gets lighter, doesn't it? So we're kind of creating the curve of where it goes around. You see what I mean? That kind of effect. Now clean the brush again, and let's go for a light grey again this time. Hint of burnt umber in this, and a hint of black. That's what I call a warm kind of a grey, okay? Now it needs a bit more white, doesn't it? quite bright down here. And then probably add a little hint of whitey blue as well into this in a moment. Yeah, I'm going to take a hint of Prussian and lots of white. Very whitey blue. And I'm going to kind of stipple some of that across. Okay. Now I know it doesn't make sense right now, but it will, I promise. It will all make sense. A little bit of light catching one side of that. And okay, I'm going to darken some of the grey. Okay, I'm going to make it slightly darker. Take some blue, or some black rather, some Prussian blue, and a hint of white. Let's go back here and give this a bit of nice, give a bit of a depth. Now we have kind of the rib cage or the gills here. Is it the gills? I can't remember at all. Now these little lines coming around here. I'm going to just use the paint now to create those as well. Well, just a very loose impression of them. Alright, now I'm going to take my small little round brush and go nice and dark for that fin up there. Okay, blue and black. And let's go for the fin up here. It sticks way up, doesn't it? Let's give it a nice, like that, and then it comes down like that. Needs to be a bit chunkier, doesn't it? That better? Okay, good. I'll take some black and some Prussian blue, and I'm going to just darken there, like that. Now, I'm going to start getting into some of the shadows. We'll take some black and some phaylo blue, and I'm going to start putting in hints of shadows here and there, okay? Because I can see a couple like that. Okay, comes down like that. Couple around. It's actually quite dark right there, isn't it? Let's take some Prussian blue, little hint of magenta, and some burnt umber perhaps. Does get really kind of dark just around this spot here. Perhaps a hint of yellow, because there's a bit of a green in this. Remember at the beginning I was saying it's a very green kind of undertone in the painting. So I'm going to use hints of yellow in some of my mixes, just to kind of keep that green kind of undertone going. Okay, now creating these lines around here, and also I'm going to darken with some black and some brown. I'm going to darken some of the grey up there. because this is still very, very bright, isn't it? You see we have a dark line there, and we have another one like that. And I'm going to soften this upwards. Okay. Now, I'll take my small pointy brush. How are we doing for time? Let me check the camera. We're not doing too badly. I'm going to take some brown, some black, and a hint of white. And I'm going to put this grey just along here. Goes over by the nose. Then it's very dark around by the nose, isn't it? And leave that soften out. See? Soften that up with your brush. Then just put in that black for the nose. Okay? Or not the nose, the nostril where they breathe, isn't it? Is that right? Make it a bit bigger. Okay, and it's almost kind of softens outwards on this side. To create the sort of indent in the skin. Does that make sense? Then I'm going to take some light colour and put some light over that. And we have a little bit of a dark as well. Now this is very, I know this is very sort of slow and tedious, but like you need to get this part right, I think, to make it believable. So there's a little ridge that comes up there, you see, towards the eye. Okay. Now we're going to put in the eye. It's very dark black. Okay, now just steady your hand as best you can and let's go for it. Let's just go around here, yes? Okay, Right, let me stop at that for one moment. Then we have lots of little lines around that, don't we? Very dark lines with the very point of the brush. Now I'm going to get a stick. I have a stick here, so I'm just going to use the stick to steady my hand, okay? Just a little. Okay, yeah, I think that's a bit better. And we have lots of small lines. Like so. One around here. Oh, the eye is probably a little bit big, but not to worry, we can fix that. Right, clean the brush I'm going to take some white. I'm going to put a spot of white just here. And a little bit here. Okay. Then I'm going to take the same and go around the eye. Just tidy up the eye. Here and there, just a little bit of a white. Around the eye. I need to bring the top of the head over the eye a bit, yes? Okay. Also, maybe darken the eye there. Darken some of those little lines around the eye. And a little spot of white just on the eye. Okay. Oh, I tell you something. That's concentration, isn't it? Darken the nose. Right, I think I go down. I'm going to take another clean flat brush, and I'm going to come down underneath here, okay? Now I'm going to just get some more white on my palette. I hope you're enjoying this now. This is a nice, kind of a detailed tutorial for you. I hope it's not boring you too much. I'm going to take some white, some Naples yellow, and I'm going to lighten under here with that. Okay, and see, go along that little dark ridge there. Now, down under here with this, around the mouth. And we have a very kind of a dark greeny, bluey colour under there, don't we? Let's take some Prussian blue, some cadmium yellow, and then let's take a little bit of perhaps burnt umber. Have a look at that. Not bad. Let's just put it in for now. Going along here where the mouth is. Now, put that in. It's not a very thick paint, okay? It's not very thick. Now let's just go as far as there. Get this in. Don't worry about little details now and stuff like that. We can get all the little fine lines and stuff like that in later, okay? Now as it comes down, I'm going to start adding more phaylo blue, or not phaylo blue, my apologies, Prussian blue into that mix. Then I'm going to go to my smaller brush and I'm just going to kind of get the edge of that. Okay, and let's kind of create some of these lines. The way it turns and kind of merges. You see what I mean? There we go. Now, we also have a fin. Now I'm going to strengthen the colour of that green, okay? I'm going to make it that little bit greener, if you will. Just here and there, look. Some Prussian blue and some cadmium yellow. Then I'm going to take some cerulean blue, some white, and I'm going to add some of that down here. Okay, just right along the bottom edge. Because there's that kind of glow, there's that bright sort of glow down at the bottom of this shark. I can see it's very bright bluey kind of a glow. I'm just going to get some of that in. Just soften it in then, look. With the tip of your brush, soften it all together. Okay? How's that going? Now you can, if you want, just take your soft blender and soften some of these together as well, look. If you like. Now I'm no expert on painting underwater scenes and that kind of thing, okay? Now you're probably shouting at the video saying, no, don't do it like that, do it like this. But you know, it's fun to learn, it's fun to try these things. Because I'm enjoying trying it. Let's get some bit of light. Like that. Okay, where it's just kind of catching some of those. Just get some more yellow there. Naples yellow and white, that's what I'm using for this. You see what sort of catches and disappears under. Soften it in. And go up there with a couple of lighter where it continues on. Okay. Then one or two darker lines in between some of these, isn't that right? A couple of small ones off in the distance. Okay, how's that? Better? Now let's go up under the mouth up here. We have that very dark, again, a very dark greeny colour up there. So let's come along here and get this in right under there like that. Now, that's very dark and very black down around this side, isn't it? And it's very black up around here. I'm going to darken that slightly there, look. Just want to make that line a little more pronounced. And almost dab it with your finger to soften it back in. Okay, there we go. I have a very bright bluey highlight, just a slight highlight over here. Okay. Okay, we're doing well, going quite well. So we have this dark line in here now, and then it sort of softens in somewhat to that whitey, not whitey, but this kind of a light grey green kind of a colour, and it softens in then slightly here and there. Let's take some burnt umber and some black. Get this nice dark area in here, look. Creating the opening of the mouth. Now I do want to lighten some parts up there. There's some parts there which are still very, very dark. Just under his eye, I want to lighten some of that. I want to take some white and a bit of Naples yellow, and I'm going to lighten that ever so slightly, and I'm going to sort of stipple the brush, okay? It's that kind of stippling effect. But it doesn't have to be exact, does it? It's a tutorial, it's just, you know, it's only like for us some practice, just to see what we can do with a shark underwater. But I'm kind of fairly happy so far. Again, there's a lot of work in this, it will take time, won't it? Now I'm going to put a slightly lighter colour around here and there on this. Just there was catching some of the light. Okay. And I might soften some of that. Okay. And up here I might soften some of that in as well. A very dark kind of a shade across here, don't we, from the nose across. Right, let's go and let's do the fins. We have a couple of fins there as well, haven't we? Let's get those fins done. I'll start off now with a dark colour, some black and some Prussian blue. A little drop of thinners in this, perhaps a little touch of burnt umber as well. And now we have a fin under here first, shall we? In fact, I may add a little hint of Naples yellow into this. So I don't want it too dark. And let's go here. And it comes from here then, like that, doesn't it? Take a hint of cerulean in this. Because if you look under the fin, it almost softens into the body underneath. It's the same colour, isn't it? Would that be right? So there's almost no separation between these two colours. It kind of softens in to the body. There. You see what I mean? And then we take a small pointy brush. Now I think the shark needs to be a bit further down here, doesn't it? I think he's a bit, shall we say, a little bit skinny. Would that be the word? So I'm going to darken it slightly, and I'm going to come down just a little, look. It's going to make the body a little bit chunkier, shall we say. And let's move to the next fin. The next fin is, again, I'm going to start with a darker colour, and I can put in highlights on it then. So let's go around here. It turns and comes out, doesn't it? And it goes out to a point. And then it turns here and it comes down. Now, go up here with the dark side of that comes around like that, doesn't it? And sort of then kind of softens in to the rest of the shark, doesn't it? Okay, now let's take a small pointy brush and get some nice dark going, some Prussian blue and some black, and I want to get a nice dark shadow on this front here. Okay, and that shadow then, there's a shadow being cast across it then as well, isn't there? It's a very rich kind of a bluey shadow kind of coming across. Okay, like that. And we have another shadow being cast up here. These will help in the long run, okay? These little shadows. So don't be afraid of the shadows. And we have a very dark colour over on the other side. A lot of detail in this, isn't there? Lot of work in this. And this is still nowhere near complete. You know, we've a lot of work to do on this yet. I may have to charge up my camcorder again. Just letting you know. That may be a possibility. We'll catch some light on this. Let's take some cerulean blue, cobalt blue and some white. Let's catch a little highlight here and there. Yeah, touch of Perusian. Make it a bit more blue. Now, and I'll put a little touch of light on the fin at the back as well. Look, just a little hint here and there. I'll put a hint of cobalt with white up there. And I'll take a hint of black and Prussian blue, and I'll give this little shadow here on that side. Okay, I'll soften this slightly. I'm going to take some Peruvian blue, hint of magenta, and I'm going to put slight, probably too pinky actually. Let's put a slight bluey colour in here, soften it down, and I put this blue colour along here as well. We have little fins at the back. I didn't notice those actually. Small little fins sticking out at the back here. And a little bit under here. Okay. Rightio. How's that looking? I'll take some Naples yellow with white. Just brighten some of these. Sharpen some of the markings on the fish. Okay, now it may look a bit funny with all these wiggly lines. I'm not sure if I should sort of soften together or if I should leave them really sharp. I think it might be nice if I soften them together slightly. It just doesn't look right to me, it doesn't feel right. I'm going to go into the mouth. I'm going to go in and do the mouth. Okay? Let's do this. Let's start first with a very dark colour. Some black and some brown. It's really, really dark. Look, it's a pure black. Come in here. I have a lot of turpentine in this now as well, by the way. Okay, I'm back. Cam recorder is fully charged. I am back. Now, let me just get my reference photo back up here. Okay, it's on the screen. Now, where were we? This mouth here. We're going to fill that in, okay? I'm going to use black and a bit of burnt umber. I'm going to go right up here now and go over here. And it almost goes from this point out here and back down, doesn't it? Okay, and it goes down and there's a slight turn at the very end of it then, isn't there? And look, this is only just, I just need to push my canvas into a little holder which I had up here just to keep it steady. Okay, there we go. Now, little black, burnt umber. And I have a little tiny touch of thinners in this as well. Okay, you can see it's kind of moving around nicely on the canvas. Now, so, how is that? And we have that piece finished. Okay, I can see a little hint of the inside of the skin up there, so I'm going to put a hint of that in with some Naples yellow, some blue, perhaps a hint of cadmium yellow, again just giving it that kind of greeny tone. Okay, I'm just going to test this now. That's not bad. Put a little bit of that in up there and then soften it back. Now the black is a very strong colour, so it's going to tend to mix into that black very, very quickly. Okay, just persevere. Let's try it again. It's not too bad. I maybe add a little hint of the blue as well, because kind of in the shadows it'll be a sort of a bluey colour. I'm just taking little touches of the cerulean blue now on my brush, okay? I'm softening it in to that. Now it's a little tricky, you can see, but you get the idea. I'm going to put a little bit of dark blue in the back in here, just to give that a bit of colour. Now, Okay, we are doing very, very well, my friends. I am going to add more lighter colour around by the front of the mouth here, okay? Now, small brush, little round brush, anything that you have will do, okay? Doesn't have to be the very same as mine. I'm going to take some Naples yellow, some cadmium yellow, and plenty of white into that. Very bright whitey kind of a yellowy colour almost. And I'm going to go along and it's a little bit there and then comes up. Okay, and it comes up to this point there. And I am then going to take a bit more Naples, a bit more white. It gets very bright and whitey up here, doesn't it? And I'm going to sort of soften it then into the mouth underneath, okay? It's going to sort of soften underneath, way down. And I'm going to put some of that nice colour, actually, I'm going to use some of that colour for up here as well. I'm just going to put a hint of that just here and there. Dab it in with your finger, and it is of course very, very wet up there, so you do need to be a little bit careful. I'm going to darken, I'm going to strengthen the colours under there, but first I just want to put a very bright colour along there, okay? Some white, and I'm thinking a hint of cerulean blue. I'll put a very bright highlight just across there like that, and again across here, little tiny amounts. You see, it's really separating the mouth then, and we have some of that as well. We have a very strong kind of a line of that up here. It's just all these little things now, it's just these little details. I'd like to try and get it right, you know what I mean? Well, not get it right, but get it looking nice. That's the word I'm looking for. I want it to look nice. I'm going to darken with some dark colour under here again. I'm going to get some cadmium yellow, some Prussian blue, some burnt umber, and I'm going to go in under here, darken that right down. And it's a nice rich kind of a green. Okay, it's a very rich green. And again under here, I'll switch to my slightly bigger round brush. I'm going to go with Prussian blue, cadmium yellow, and it's going to be more on the blue side, I think, for this one. Little hint of white, and I'm going to put that colour in just under here. Little bit of that, because it's quite dark up there, isn't it? More Prussian blue, cadmium yellow, some thinners just to thin it slightly, and let me have a look at that now. Okay, very strong dark kind of colours like that. See, and I'm going to soften it over in here and just kind of allow it to soften a little bit through. A little bit of that colour behind here. Okay, now we have a very strong dark colour as well, just around here, okay, just around by the lines here, the dark lines, the gills. Couple of those very strong dark colours just in there. Okay, like that. And let me see now. See, we're getting there now, slowly but surely. We'll take a little bit of the lighter colour, that whitey kind of a green colour. I'll just put some lights through there. Okay, just trying to get this area reasonably nice, just around the mouth there. I'm going to go with some nice dark colour in around here, just to give it a little bit of detail. Okay, now, and it almost kind of disappears, doesn't it? Right, now we're looking good. Would you agree? We're looking good. Couple of dark lines just under there. Let's move on to the teeth. These are where it all happens. Okay. Now I should by right leave this dry and do a nice crisp tooth over it, but I'm just impatient. Okay. No, that's still recording. Okay, that's fine. Let's start with the bottom. Okay. I'm just going to put a suggestion of teeth in here, just a very loose suggestion. All right. So we'll start with a couple of these. Center. Now I'm going to clean my brush after every say 2 or 3 teeth, okay? Just to keep it nice and clean and bright. So a bit of tissue in the hand is always handy. You see how I made that rhyme? A tissue in the hand is always handy. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry if they're not too pointy. I mean, I know he's a shark, but he's probably a pretty old shark, and I'm sure he's eaten a lot over time, so his teeth are not going to be the sharpest, I would say. Now, if these are a bit small, I do apologise. And they sort of disappear then into his mouth right at the back, don't they? Like that. And let's go forward. A couple out here. Strangely enough, the ones at the front are slightly darker, aren't they? Because they're showing against the bright background. So they will be kind of in slight darkness at the front, I would imagine, if you know what I'm saying. So just like this. And we'll put some highlights on them then. Okay, we get some dark, a tiny bit of black. You see, just like that. Then we get some white. We put plenty of white on these now. There's actually, if you look closely, you can see 2 or 3 rows of teeth on each one, so it's tricky to kind of make it look layered, if you understand what I mean. Okay, now I put a nice bright line, crisp line along under that, and I'll do more as I need to, but take your time. Now I'm going to soften that together just slightly there, okay? I want to make this a bit darker over here. No, that's better. It just wasn't looking right. Okay, the teeth on top. They have a slightly kind of a yellowy colour to them, don't they? So I may add a little hint of Naples yellow to these. Just to jazz them up a little bit. Maybe a hint of crimson. Okay. And let's just go for it. The ones up on top now do look a little bit bigger than the ones on the bottom. It's just the angle of the camera, I expect. But look, let's just go along and see how we get on with it. I'll add a touch of burnt umber, I think, into this with a hint of crimson. As they go off into the shadows, they are quite dark and dull. Okay. So what do you think? Is it coming together? I think it is. I think it's quite nice. This guy should have went to a dentist. Oh, you see, I really overdid that one there now. That looks completely wrong. I'll fix it, not to worry. We'll fix all of these things. The canvas is ours, we can do what we like. We can fix things as we wish. Now I'm going to pop a little bit of pink into some of them because he may have had a snack. Okay. A little bit of black and go in under this here. And fix that one. And then we just go back and we clean up some of these teeth. Perhaps add a little bit of white. Some of them. I'm going to go backwards now as well and finish off some of these. Take a bit of white. So you see how difficult it is because it's mixing with the black underneath. It's just want to suggest some in the background as well, okay? Multiple rows. What was I saying? Because it's mixing with the black now, you see, it's just a little bit tricky, that's all. Okay. How is this looking? I'm going to take some burnt umber and some crimson. I'm going to add a little touch of that browny red to some of these in the background. In fact, I may add just a hint of crimson actually, to suggest a little hint of blood on some of them. Come on, it's Shark Week, why not? And then I am going to put a very dark shadow with some crimson and some blue on the top halves of some of those teeth, okay? Because it sort of goes from a white up to a shadow. It's just tricky to do this when it's wet, you know what I mean? Just a hint, look, just a hint. Now, how are we looking with this? I want to brighten up around the top of the nose. Okay, just here and there. And take some white, just some white, and I'm going to strengthen this line here, just to make it a bit more pronounced. This now would be actually very nice to work with acrylics, because they dry so fast, give you plenty of time to get loads done. Would be perfect actually. Now, soften that down, like so. And I'm going to take a small brush now, a small flat, and I'm going to add a little shadow colour here and there. Some blue and a little pink. Okay. And a hint of white. And I'm just going to kind of bring some of that shadow colour. Let's see now, let's go under here. There's that sort of a glow from the water underneath. Does that kind of make sense? Now I'm going to take some white with some of the blue and put some of that under there. Just a hint of it. You can see sort of the blue from the, well, it's not the blue, it's the light from underneath kind of shining upwards as well. It's just creating this kind of a light under his body. Just a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to darken some of the dark lines around his fins also, to make them a little bit stronger. And we get a couple of nice ones here. And I'll add a little bit of shadow to some of these. Okay, and we're not looking too bad, I don't think. I'm going to soften some of this now with my blender brush very gently. And I think we're ready to call this almost done. Are we? Almost ready. Let's darken that nose again, a little bit of black. And I'll take a bit of black then and go under this, just sort of refine some of those again. I'll take a hint of black. There. And my friends, I think we're pretty much done. I would say that's a success, a very, very big success. Okay. Let me now zoom in and zoom back and so on, and let's have a look and see what we've done. So how was that? A wonderful shark in the water. I may add some highlights just to show the light from above kind of catching his body here and there. I think I might do it there now actually while you're here, while I have you on the camera looking at this. I'll do it for you. I'll take some cerulean blue and some white, and I might just kind of brighten some of those again, and I might put some of that just here and there. Okay, just like that, just kind of catching the sunlight from overhead. And that, my friends, is it. He's a mean looking shark, isn't he? And there we go. So, let me turn the camera here now. Thank you so much. It has been fantastic. I really enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to sticking this in the frame and see how we get on. I might put it up for sale, see what happens. Very nice, isn't it? Shark Week. I hope you liked it, everyone. Something different, something unique, something just to try and have a bit of fun with. And I will be back next week. I might do something next week for my mum, for her memory. I have a picture I think she would love. It is like a sunset with a field of bluebells, something like that. So lovely warm oranges against purples. She would have loved something like that. I think I commemorate my mother next week with that painting. We'll see, okay? Thank you so much for joining me. Subscribe if you haven't done so. You're missing so many wonderful tutorials. Check out my Patreon page if you want to support me as well. There's plenty of tutorials over there. It's a lovely little community. So go there, check it out. I'll talk to you very soon. Thank you and God bless. Happy painting.